things. So we're talking about questions 1 through 8 in the Little Atheist book for chapter 5. And we've already talked about number 1. So since the 1950s, how have advancements in technology changed our understanding of the universe and life on Earth? Kyle, I'm going to let you repeat your answer because it was fabulous.
Enable scientists to discover
Yes. Yes, it's enabled us to see these intricate details of life through the advancements of microscopes. And then we also talked about the anthropic principle of biology, just like the universe is finely tuned in order to allow life on Earth. Our bodies are finely tuned to allow us to live and breathe and run and everything that we do, see, all of that. So number 2 says, how complex is a one-celled amoeba? And as Kyle already said, that it is astonishingly complex. But can you give a more complete answer to that? What would you what does the book compare the one-celled amoeba? Information in a one-celled amoeba. Yeah. How complex is a one-celled amoeba? No, it's not simple at all. It says let's consider a so-called simple life, but so-called means it's not actually. We haven't had it yet. Where does it talk about encyclopedias? Where does it talk about encyclopedias? The information in encyclopedias. Look on page 116. So there's a specific order in our DNA, and it tells a message because everybody's DNA is different. There's a reason why you have blue eyes or brown hair or curly hair, or it has to do with your DNA. And a one-celled amoeba creature is so small that several hundred could be lined up in an inch. And then and it has a message, and you read about that toward the top of. I'll just read it. Just as the specified order of letters in this sentence communicates a unique message, the specific order of A, T, C, and G within a living cell determines the unique genetic makeup of that living entity. So then you look down and it says that staunch Darwinist Richard Dawkins, professor of zoology at Oxford University, admits that the message found in just one in the cell nucleus of a tiny amoeba is more than 30 volumes of an encyclopedia written into the nucleus of one cell is the equivalent in information to 30 volumes. If you take the entire amoeba, which is, remember, several hundred could be lined up in an inch. So it's tiny. It would be equivalent, the letters would fill, those letters of information, A, T, C, and G, would fill 1,000 complete sets. One cell amoeba. Not so simple. It's very complex. So that's why it says it's astonishing. What's the supreme problem for Darwinists to explain? Yeah, explaining the first life. Because if you can't explain the first life, you can't explain evolution, right? You have to know where the first life came from, and all they can say was a huge accident. It happened by chance. You see that book happened by chance? I don't think so. And so if they can't explain the first life, they can't explain evolution at all. So the issue isn't so much how did a one-cell amoeba become a glob, become a reptile, become a whatever, an amphibian, become a reptile, and that's not the question. The question is, where'd that one cell come? They can't answer. So explaining the origin of the first life. What two scientists discovered DNA? Yeah. James Watson and Francis Crick. And how significant was their discovery? I hate that. Why was it significant? How significant was it? Really significant, right? Why was it significant? Because, yeah, you're right. No, go ahead. You want to add to that? Because you were going to say the exact same thing.
That's just like self-explanatory. So significant because it just shows how much detail we have in our every cell.
Exactly. And before they discovered that, scientists could comfort themselves by believing that a one-celled amoeba was not complex. It was just a one-celled amoeba. But DNA unlocks not only the complexity of life, but the specific message of each life form. The specific message within each life form. And so what we know from science now, we can't say, oh, it's just a simple little amoeba. No. It's very complex. And so that's that discovery of DNA was huge for realizing, wait, this isn't as easy as we thought. This isn't as simple as we thought. Now, can we directly see things that happened in the past? So if we can't do that, if we can't observe the past, then what scientific principles can we use in general? What scientific principles can we use to help us discover what caused the first flood? Yeah. Yeah, forensic principles. They're the exact same thing that are used in a crime. They reconstruct the crime. And if you get DNA off of the crime scene, that is a clue, right? If you get they can tell, for example, how tall or how high, if a gun was shot, how high that was shot from, and they can tell the trajectory of things, and they can tell the speed of things, and so these are the same ideas that are used in our court system. It's evidence, right? So it's forensic principles is another way of saying evidence. And one of those principles is the principle of uniformity. What is the principle of uniformity? Yeah.
That like cases in the past happen the same.
Right. Causes in the past are the same as causes today. So if the barometer is such and the temperature is such and if the factors in the clouds are such, you will have snow. And that's always been that way when those conditions are right and those conditions come together. So that's the principle of uniformity, that causes remain the same. The causes we have today are the same as they were in the past. And so that's the principle of uniformity. Causes in the past are the same as the causes we observe today. Excuse me. Now, on page 118, your book applies the principle of uniformity to Mount Rushmore, or even the simplest life. So what conclusions can be drawn from Mount Rushmore based on the principle of uniformity? Yeah.
Only an intelligent being.
Right. There is no wind, rain, storm that's going to produce the heads of four dead presidents, right? That's not going to happen. Wind, storms only create chaos. I probably told you this at some point, but oh golly, I don't know how old you would have been, but you were never at La Platte, though. Were you ever at La Platte?
No.
Yeah. So it had to be maybe the seniors when they were.
Because our 5th grade year, we were in TLC and we took like a visit to La Platte.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So there was this in 2017, probably 2017. A tornado ripped through South Bellevue and went through La Platte. And so I called Mr. Hood and I said, you want me to go check on the school, make sure everything's okay? And he said, why? I said, well, this tornado came through. And he said, oh, it's fine. I'm going that way and I'll stop at the school on my way home. And not too long later, I got a call from him. He said, hey, can you and your husband come down here and bring as many buckets as you have? And we got there, and part of the roof had been ripped off, and a tree was twisted off, and there was water pouring into the school. Like Mr. Hubert's room looked like a water feature from Disney. I mean, it was just rushing in. It didn't create, though, a water feature that looked like a beautiful Disney waterfall, right? It was just gushing through the top. So something like Disney World or something like Mount Rushmore requires intelligence, requires planning, requires a design. And so an intelligent designer created Mount Rushmore because no natural cause has ever been observed to create anything like that. And the same thing is true for the simplest life form. No accident has ever been, no chemistry experiment has ever gone awry, and life has been created. Frankenstein didn't really happen. And then question 8. If Dawkins and Crick admittedly recognize the design of life, then why don't they admit an intelligent designer? Every design had a designer. They're saying, yeah, it's a design. In fact, I heard Richard Dawkins in a debate, and he said this, and this is a quote, that evolution is the belief that something that appears to have been designed actually came about through random chance. So even he says, yep, looks like it was designed. but it wasn't. Did we say that about a Maserati? Or a Tesla? Or a house? Yeah, looks like somebody designed it, but actually random natural forces created the Tesla. And we're looking at something far. So why? Why do they refuse to recognize what is on? They don't want to. And because they don't want to, they rule out the possibility of God in advance. There can't be a God. There isn't a God. Therefore, the only other choice is random natural forces. Because it can't be anything supernatural. Because there is no supernatural. It is as if I said to you, I gave you a test, there was one question on it, 2 plus 2. And I said to you, but the answer can't be 4. Now find the answer. You can't. Because I've just ruled out the only possible answer. Now you can say 2 plus 2, 2 equals 3 plus 1. But you still haven't given me one answer. And they're saying there can't be a God. That can't be the reason. If you rule out the correct reason, you'll never find the right one. And so that's why Dawkins and Crick recognize design, why they don't admit intelligent design is because they're not willing to admit that there's a design. Now, with the rest of the time you have left, this is written here. It's also written here. You're going to read page 119 where you left off on page 119 to page 124. There's a break on page 124, kind of not very far down. What does it say?
Give chance a chance.
Give chance a chance. So you're going to stop there, and then you're going to answer questions 9 through 13. And that's your homework for the weekend. And I'm handing out to you the Chapter 5 study guide, probably a quiz next week, but not entirely sure when.